Hey guys, what's going on? It's RC Knockout and I am back with another video. Now, in a previous video, I took my ready-to-run Traxxas Slash XL5 Brus model. I took it out and ran it bone stock. So the first time I ran it just on a nickel hydride pack. I got 22.6 miles per hour or something when I hooked up the GPS. Then a few days later, I did the same test with the same gearing, everything stock, but with a 2S LiPo, and I got tiniest bit better results, 23.0. So 23 miles per hour is roughly what you can expect with the stock gearing and a nickel hydride and 2S LiPo pack. But keep in mind, a nickel hydride pack starts draining really quick as you go. The 2S LiPo actually holds its power until it hits low voltage mode. But anyhow, basically today I'm doing the very first modification to this rig. And it's not an aftermarket modification. It's actually stuff that came with the ready-to-run kit. It came in the box, so the first thing we're going to do is we're changing up the gearing, guys. We are going with the optional gearing. So this right here, this pinion and spur gear, this will make this machine capable of 30 plus miles per hour, it says. So we're going to put this on, and then we're going to go take it back out, and we're going to try bashing it, and we're also going to put the GPS on it, and see what type of top speed we get out of it with the optional gearing, and will we actually get 30 plus miles per hour. Now the other modification I'm going to do while I'm on camera is I have this parts tree right here, and the thing I was noticing when I was driving this Slash, just like in general around the parking lot, just driving in general, what was happening was the body roll, there was a lot of body roll, and what was happening is it put all that weight on the outside wheel, and this, keep in mind, is two-wheel drive. It basically dumped all the power to the inside wheel. So basically it went the path of least resistance. So it went to the wheel that didn't have any weight on it, which was the inside wheel. And the problem is, with an open differential like this, when it's just sending the power to one wheel that doesn't have any weight on it, you're not getting the power to the ground. So that was what I was noticing. Couldn't get the power to the ground. So I got this parts tree. This is going to be the first course of action. I don't know what these pieces are called. I call them like spring clips or preload clips. I think I'm going to put a couple more on the rear shocks and maybe some on the front shocks as well to hopefully stiffen up this suspension and keep that body as flat as we possibly can and keep it from rolling from side to side, because we really want that weight to stay as even as we can keep it on both the rear wheels. And it's diving and swaying quite a bit. Obviously this doesn't have sway bars or anything, but we're going to try that and see if we can get more power to the ground. So let's jump right into it. We will pull the body off. Body's still looking pretty good. Got a little bit of abrasion going on. I did flip it quite a few times on pavement, but it doesn't look like we have any cracking. But I did also reinforce this body with a ton of Gorilla Tape. So I guess that's technically the first mod I did, but that's just to the body. So it was not a performance mod whatsoever. Alright guys, so I've actually never done this before on a two-wheel drive, and I did not even look it up. So we're just going to do it right here and hopefully figure it out while I'm on camera. So I think the first course of action is I am going to remove this rear wheel just so you guys can see better, because here's the cover we need to remove right here. Looks like there's maybe just two little screws, one underneath and one up top, that hold this cover on. So let me find what size that is. My guess is it's a 2 mil. So there's one down here. I think this is holding the cover on. Alright. Got that one off like such. I was right, it was 2 millimeter. Then this one up here, same thing, 2 millimeter. And yep, looks like those were the only two. Those are the only two that hold this on. So one on the bottom, right down here, as well as one on the top. So easy enough. And now we're already to the spur gear and the pinion gear. First, we should probably rip this open and see exactly what it says. So let's just read what it says. Optional gearing. Note: the included high-speed gearing is intended for high-speed running on hard surfaces. And this gearing is not recommended for off-road or repetitive starting and stopping. But that's exactly what I'm going to do. So the actual stock gearing is a 16-tooth pinion. So we got a 16-tooth pinion right here, as well as a 90-tooth spur gear. And we are going to the optional pinion, which, like I said, this is a 23 tooth. So we have a 23 tooth optional pinion, and it looks like we also put the spur gear on, which is an 86 tooth. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And looking at this, I don't know if I need to loosen up the slipper to get this off, because there's 3 screws right here. 1, 2, 3. Those look like maybe 2.5 millimeter. And I'm thinking we can just loosen these up and it will hopefully just slide off. Oh, obviously need to hold it because it's spinning. Doesn't appear that anything is going to be holding it, because looking at this one, it doesn't look like there's anything holding it. It's just maybe kind of caught on the bearing, because it looks like it just wraps around the bearing. There we go. I'm starting to pop off. Just want to be very gentle, because I don't want to damage this spur gear, just in case if I go back to it. And that's actually pretty easy. You don't even need to disassemble the slipper clutch at all to swap this out, so that's nice. So I think we will get the pinion off, which my guess is that that is probably a 1.5 millimeter grub screw on the pinion, which it is. Also looks like I need to loosen these. This is how you move the motor right here. So there's 1, 2. I might want to do that now. Those look to be 2.5 as well. No, they're not. Those are 2 millimeter. I judged wrong. Okay, so these ones are 2 millimeter. Just loosen those up just a smidge. Doesn't really seem to move much. I don't think it's even moving at all, but let's get this 86 tooth spur gear thrown on. Okay, got the spur gear on. Now it's time to put this 23 tooth optional pinion on. And I was looking at this. I don't know if this is actually adjustable, this motor mount, because it looks like there's actually a black piece in here of like rubber or something. So I think I figured it out, guys. Basically, this piece right here goes right up against the motor. And I don't know if you can see this, but right down in here, there's a little groove that's cut out. And that is where this piece right here slides into. And as you can see, that is why I couldn't move that motor, because it slides in. Let's see if you guys can see. I will actually bring it a little bit closer. But right in here, that piece slides in right there. Okay, there, you guys can see. Slides in right there like that. But as you can see, you can't then slide it on this slider. This is actually the slider spot. So you actually have to take this piece off. So you got to remove the motor. Because I'm like, why is it not moving? So you got to push that out. So just watch. I'm going to push this out like such. And then as you can see, it clears this up. So now I can move the motor. So I don't know exactly why they did that. I guess they must have done it just for like new beginners. If they ever have to take the pinion off, this keeps the gear mesh right for the stock pinion, because you can't adjust it at all. You can't slide the motor at all. There's only one screw through the middle. You can't slide it. So you're gonna have to remove this plastic piece in order to install the optional pinion. And now we can actually slide the motor back in. As you guys can see now, it can slide. Let's install that new pinion gear. So we are going to get it onto the motor shaft, and obviously there's a flat side to the motor shaft. Right here, the top portion of this motor shaft is flat. Obviously, when you push it on, the grub screw needs to tighten onto the flat part. And got that on tight. And now we can actually push the motor and the spur gear together. Now to get the gear mesh right, a lot of times I do it by feel, but a lot of my spur gears are metal, so metal on metal you can really tell with like the clicking. But I just try to look for just the tiniest little movement. Well, I mean tiniest, I mean like, let's see if you guys can hear this. Can you guys hear that? I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. You hear that tiniest amount of movement. That's about what you want. You want it where it's not completely tight, but where when you go like this and you wiggle the spur gear, it wiggles just the tiniest bit. But make sure it's not too much, because then you'll end up stripping out your spur gear, most likely. So let's get these tightened up where they are, these 2mm motor mount screws. Once you get that, just make sure it spins freely, which it does. It spins pretty smooth. Now that everything's tightened down, now we put the cover back on and basically do the opposite of what we did, and it's basically just the 2 screws that hold this cover on right here. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. One down here, you gotta find the hole. That's what she said. Crap, I actually don't know which one's which, because one of them's longer, actually. I did not realize that. This one is slightly longer. I'm thinking that would be the top one then, because the bottom one, my guess, would be the smaller one. So let's roll with that and assume that's the case. I think the larger one goes up top. We will see. And top one, nice and snug. All right, now that we're done with that, guys, I'm going to cut some preload clips, or whatever these pieces are called, to firm up this rear suspension and probably firm up the front suspension as well. What we are looking for is these right here, and that one just pulled off. I thought I'd have to use this to cut it. Now these ones look to be the same size, and yes, I would say they're the same size. And as you can see, there's already one right here on the back. So let's see what happens if I can press this down and try to put a whole nother one on. This looks to be the same size as the one that's already on there. So those both look to be the exact same size. So I'm going to push down on this, and it basically just wraps around it. So you just basically push it. Now let's feel the difference between this side and the other side. So there's stock. I mean, I can feel it, definitely. I think we'll go with that to begin with. So we're going to do the exact same thing on this side. Just pull down on that shock spring, or on that bottom one, that bottom preload clip, and then just push that around there. And now it's on, and it's still, I can still feel that it's probably still going to go side to side. I think now we're going to do some, and actually this actually lifts it up even higher. So if we're talking about center of gravity, this compressed the springs a little bit more, but it also, instead of pushing the springs down, it more raises the truck up, which now we might have even more problems with rolling this machine. And in the front, they just have like, oh, that's not even one. They don't even have any in the front. So we're going to firm up the front quite a bit as well. Looks like this is the next biggest size they have. Looks like this right here is the next thickest one they have. And I can put multiple on, so if we want to go thicker. But like I said, we're going to start off with this, guys, and go from there. So these ones right here are the exact same size. Pull down on that like such, and just push that on, and there. Let's do the same thing on this side. Okay, guys. So I feel like that raised the machine up quite a bit more, and it still feels like it's gonna move. But like I said, we have more, so we can put more on. Otherwise, if this doesn't work, and if it causes more problems with rolling, which might be the case, we might have to find another solution to keep this chassis from rolling from side to side, because we really want to get all that power to the ground as much as we can, so we don't want it dumping it to that inside wheel. Now that I got that stuff done, we are going to go test this thing.